All right, today we got a new zip code. This is in 35207. All right, today we got a new zip code. This is 35207, which is north of Birmingham. So, right, what I'm doing with this market is I'm basically just taking it one zip code at a time, learning all the ARVs and what properties are selling for by market and just noting them down, right? So this is part of like how I really want to analyze the whole market in its entirety. So today we're gonna go and just pick up a 3-bedroom property. Okay. 35207. This is 1512 34th Ave North, Birmingham, Alabama, 35207. You can see this property is relatively turnkey. It looks like they just renovated everything, new floors. Is that a okay? That's a master bathroom, I guess, with a that's an interesting layout for a bathroom. Okay. 3-bed, 2-bath. Let's see. How does this property look? What is this? Oh, dirt road. Okay. I can see why this is not selling. Just doing a quick street drive-by. Just trying to get a these homes look pretty solid. I mean, that home looks pretty nice. All right. Just getting a general lay of the land there. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get the FMRs, which is the fair market rents. If you Google HUD FMR, click on the first link, click on access to small area FMRs, and then look at FY 2024 FMRs. You're going to see that this property should be in Jefferson County. We'll check. Yep. So when you go to Alabama, you go to Jefferson County, you should be able to get the rent ceilings by zip code, by bedroom count. And today we're in 35207, and you're going to see that the rent ceiling for a 3-bed is $1240, and the rent ceiling for a 4-bed is $1350. I always just try to make sure I understand how much incremental rent you get just by going up a little bit. So $1240 and $1350. Let's write that one down. $1240. Oh, there you go. 35204. This is 35207 today. Somehow that was the same rent. Okay, great. Now that I got all of these properties for the HUD rent ceiling, I'm going to get the market rent. So I want to be able to compare the two overall. So boom, plug this one in, plug this bedroom count in. And you're going to see that on average, for 25 units, there are 3 bedrooms within a 2.08 mile radius. The average rent is $1106. $1106. Good to know. Because that's actually under the 1240, right? 1520, 1066, 986. Okay. Now, if I go to 4-bedroom, do I see a big lift? I always just try to understand this because, there is a pretty big lift, but it's a much wider radius of 3.33. Because I want to see whether or not sometimes there is a garage or something like that in there. 1363, excuse me. And you might think that, hey, if I convert the garage into an additional bedroom, is it worth my time and is it worth the incremental rent? So by going to a 4-bedroom, you are able to get to that sort of rent ceiling. So it seems like there is much bigger demand, or the market pays or recognizes the premium associated with a 4-bedroom property. So good to know. All right, now that I got my rents, let's look at the condition of the property. Relatively turnkey, so I'm not going to put much money for the rehab on this property. So let's put in the purchase price of $120,000. For my rehab, I'm going to see what do I have here. I'll probably replace 2 of the toilets with a high pressure flush toilet at $450 each. I'm assuming I don't need to paint the place. I might say less. Maybe there's like 100 square feet of touch-up paint that I need to do. So that's $300. I got $500 for landscaping, and I'm gonna set aside some money for the roof at $1,500 just in case there's something that I do not see in the photos, right? So that brings me to $3,840 for the total rehab. Now my monthly income rent, even though my rent ceiling is $1,240, right? That usually includes utilities. The market rent is $1,106, so I'm gonna use $1,125 for my rent here, and that's because of the rent reasonableness test, right? If you go to the Housing Choice Voucher Guidebook, Housing Choice Voucher is formerly known as the Section 8 program, right? You go to Section 2.2, and there's this test called the Rent Reasonableness Test. right? Reasonableness test states that the PHA, or the Public Housing Authority, must determine. Ooh. Sorry, guys. One second, get some water. We've been talking a lot. The Public Housing Authority must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units, which means that you cannot charge more rent simply because someone is a voucher holder, okay? Now, obviously, it's going to depend on your single families versus condos, right? So what's all unit type is in there, the age of the unit, the quality, size, etc. But for the most part, I'm going to be a little more conservative and say, hey, if the market says I'm not going to get more than 11.06 for rent on average, right? Even though this probably might be more nicely renovated, I'll probably get like another 25, 50 bucks maybe on top of it, but I'm not going to go ahead and underwrite with a full extra 100 bucks, right? And that could be the difference between you making money or not making money. All right. So at 11.25, all right, let's get our property tax numbers in here. I'm just going to take it right from Redfin. This is $39 in property taxes. And then my homeowner insurance is $93. And I always take the insurance number and I multiply by 1.2. Okay. Why do I do that? Because usually the premium that's linked in right there is usually associated with a primary residence property. If you are buying it for investment purposes, which means that you are renting it out, well, all of a sudden you want to be able to account for an additional premium or additional expenses for the insurance policy. So that's why I multiply by 1.2 to get 20% premium. I'm going to set aside 10% for maintenance every single month. So 10% of my rents are just set aside in an account because eventually the roof needs to get replaced, the HVAC needs to get replaced, the water heating needs to get replaced. Something always breaks and something always eventually needs to get replaced. So if you don't underwrite the deal with that money set aside, you will be grossly overestimating the expenses. Okay? You will be grossly overestimating your profits. I mean, because in 10 years from now, you might replace your roof and all of a sudden you spend 10 grand and you're going to realize, hey, where did all the money I thought I made from the property go? And that's because you never set aside the money. And now all of a sudden you might have been making $100 every single month, but then that's $1,200 for a year. So you multiply by 10 years, that's $12,000, but then you just spent $12,000 on a roof. Hopefully that makes sense, right? This is where people get burned a lot, is because they think they're making money, but then they're really not, because they never set aside the money for maintenance. At 10% for property management, I got 5% for vacancy. All right. So for my down payment, I'm gonna come to this section right here. I'm gonna do equals asking price multiplied by my down payment right here for 25%. I got 2.5% for closing costs, $38.40 for my renovations, and then my financing amount is going to be equals to my asking price. So that's B4 minus my down payment. That's E19. Right? And that's going to equal to $90,000. Right now, the interest rate is probably around 8.25% for a DSCR loan. Could be higher, could be lower, but that's what I got right now. Okay. Now, if that is true and all these numbers stay true, if you rent this out as a 3-bedroom and you rent it out for $11.25 a month, you will be cash flowing $17 a month. And that would be a 0.6% return on your money, assuming you bought this property at 120 grand and your rehab is $38.40 only. Okay. Now, you might say, well, if I'm trying to get a 10% return on my money, what would I be willing to pay for this property? And this is where I really want to draw your attention to, right? Pay attention to this number right here, this 0.55%. As I lower the asking price, watch what happens to the cash and cash return. Because again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this call. Simply showing you all how to take emotion out of the deal. So if I lower to 100 grand, it's 5% return. If I lower to 90 grand, it's 7.8. How about 85? 9.45. 82. Great. Now I'm at 10.51. So I would say, hey, I would make $231 a month at a 10.5% return on my money if I bought this property for $82,000. So for me, that would be a deal at 82 grand, right? Now, let's do one more scenario, right? Because the whole point of this exercise is for you to come up with a set of terms, with a price that makes it a deal for yourself, right? Your your criteria might be, hey, I just want to make 10% of my money. Or your criteria might be in a high appreciating market, let's say California, where you know properties are going up 5-10% on property prices of 500 grand, or even the median price is about $1 million now, right? It's a lot of money, even if it goes up 5%. So you might say, hey, I just want to break even here. So you have to decide what makes the most sense for your strategy and for your risk tolerance. And no one can answer that besides for yourself and your own professionals of teams, of accountants, lawyers, financial analysis, wealth managers, etc. So please consult with your own folks. All right. So now at 82 grand, I'll be making 231. So one more thing I want to do. What if all of a sudden you realize that the pictures were a sham and you got an inspection and a property required a ton more rehab? Let's say 5 times more rehab. I'm going to come over here to the B6 line and multiply this by 5. So now instead of 3840, my rehab is now 19,200, right? See what happened to my cash and cash return? How it went all the way down to 6.6%, right? It's no longer a deal because the rehab is so much more expensive. So what do? Do you panic in that situation? No. You go back here and you play around with the numbers and you try to figure out, how do I turn this back into a deal again? So now, instead of paying 82 grand, I would tell them, hey, at $68,000, I'll be making a 9.8% return. So that's the only way I can get back close to it. So I can cash flow $310. But I spent so much more money, right? My rehab just went from 3840 to 19,200 right here, 19,200. So don't be afraid, right? Because you get an inspection, you go get a contractor out there to bid the job, and now all of a sudden you realize, dude, the rehab is 5x my money. You can go back to the seller, hey, I can't buy this property at $82,000 anymore. I would be willing to buy the property at 68 grand, right? They might say no, but at least you took the emotion out of the deal, right? Assuming everything else stayed constant, you put a 25% down and an 8.25% interest rate. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. This is why we do these exercises every single day. This is why we get better at analyzing deals. And this is how you take the emotions out of the deals, most importantly. Right. I hope you all had an amazing Father's Day yesterday. I hope you guys are able to spend some quality time with your family and friends today. And again, if you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, go to affordablehousing.io, not .com, affordablehousing.io. Go to the Get Deal Analysis tool, and then just submit your information. I promise there will be no spam. And that's how you're able to get and that's how you're going to be able to get the spreadsheet sent to you automatically. Before there was a bottleneck because we had to wait for emails, etc. But hopefully this is a much more automated way for you guys to get the spreadsheet. Please DM me. You guys have any questions? You guys have any questions on any of the topics that I looked at or any of the properties that we looked at? Just DM me on Instagram at InvestWithKenHe. I'd love to talk to you. I'm trying to meet everybody in the community while we're still at a manageable size. So thank you so much for caring about affordable housing, everybody. Without people like you, I would have never had the home I grew up in. Sincerely, thank you so much. I'm here. I'm reflecting on my journey. I'm here thinking about how the podcast has been live for over a year and a half now, and we have made a tremendous stride, and it could not have been done without support from all of you, without you sharing the YouTube channel, without you guys all sharing the podcast with everybody else. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so glad I didn't quit, and I didn't quit because of the support from all of you. Thank you so much, everybody. Have an amazing day. If you guys ever have a property you guys want to help analyze, just send it to me on Instagram as well. Let's do it together. And I'll talk to you all again tomorrow for day 261. Have a good one, everybody.